click live, so we're good.
All right, we're back into open session, and I just want to take a moment right now to take a moment of silence for the passing of Anita Howland, who was our treasurer for many, many, many years. And she recently retired and fallen ill. And I can't say enough about Anita. She and I were friends, and she did so much for this town. And I just like to take a moment of silence to recognize her in this moment. Okay, thank you, everybody. Tim, I'd like to, I know this is not on the agenda, but just a consensus, and I'm not sure if you've already done it, but we did it for when Karen passed away, to put the bunting over her office.
I can take care of that.
All right, is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, welcome, Miss Luann. We haven't had a time, time to chat, but I'm sure I'll pop in and say hello in person. All right, number 4, update on Old Colony Regional School District proposal. I know George was part of that meeting. Trevor, you were not. You did get the updates?
Yep.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're at our meeting now, and I just want to make sure that any parents out there or students that are listening to this meeting, that there is no guarantee for our 8th graders to go into Old Colony next year. Absolutely none. And that's something that we're going to work on. The State Department of Education really just got wind that our students didn't have vocational schooling last year, or this year. And they were very upset about the whole thing. So one way or the other, we will have vocational ed for our students, whether we go to Old Colony or we're still looking at Bristol Plymouth at this time. So I just wanted to let everybody know. And George, you were part of that meeting anyway. And that's where we're at right now. Also, they're looking for $601,000 for us to join. It's because they have outstanding debt, but also they're using almost the wrong amount of students because we're down in students this year. So there's some room to fix that as part of the formula, but with the subcommittee is still working on it, and we're waiting right now to hear from Desi about joining Bristol Plymouth and sitting down to talk to them. Anybody have any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
The 600,000, can that be financed with them?
I think that's how Lakeville did it. They did a certain amount per year. I think that's something we would never be able to. I wouldn't want to do it that way, but I mean, but I think that's something that definitely we can work out. All right, road opening permit for 241 South Main Street. This is at Innovation Way. This is just to do some road work over there. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion granted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agreement for.
Yep, just a second.
Sorry.
Yep, no problem. Selectman Grunwald,
Yes.
Selectman Matthews,
Yes.
and Selectman Pacheco.
Yes.
Perfect.
Agreement for a septic betterment loan for 145 South Main Street. This is something we've done for many years. And this is in the amount of $25,000.
512.
512. There you go. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion granted.
Do I have a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Selectman Grunwald,
Yes.
Selectman Matthews,
Yes.
and Selectman Pacheco.
Yes.
And I just want to add that you guys actually have to come in person to sign that documents, because those documents, because we have they have to be filed with the deed, which means you guys have to pen on paper.
All right.
All right, sounds good. All right, a conservation restriction with Copart of Connecticut. Has anybody had time to review all of that?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
This is
Alright.
the same restriction that you guys have seen
Yeah,
a number of times
that's
previously.
right.
It's 132 acres of land, and we're looking basically to maintain open space, floodplain preservation, protection of the wetlands, protection of wildlife habitats, and things like that.
Okay, yeah. So it was already been agreed to by all parties, right?
Yep.
That's
It's been,
correct.
yep, it's been a preliminary approved by the state, Copart, Conservation Commission, our town council worked on it with
Yeah.
everybody.
Okay, yep.
So it's just that you guys are the last approval for it.
And the public will have access to that property?
That I don't know.
Conservation land, I would think they would.
I think that was part of the conservation's recommendation, is that we would have an access to that property over there.
But we're not sure, Lisa.
I'm gonna look it up right now. Actually, we could use Bob Joe's right now. Maybe he knows.
Bob.
No, Bob Joes does not know. Wrong board. Not on that board.
We'll take care of that for you, Bob.
No, thank you. I have enough.
Yeah, I mean, there is on page 8 of it, there is a access, but I don't think it says like with permission, reasonable notice. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's applicable to this.
So there's no public access.
Not according to this document. I don't see anything about that yet.
Would be nice to have that.
Yeah.
I think that there was yeah,
Oh, I see it. Wait.
yeah, trails and parking areas, yes. So there is unpaved trails and a relocation or alteration of existing trails. So they had to put all the trails in that were already there. They had to just move them and put them back in. So it's on page 6 and it's under number 9.
Gotcha.
Okay. Good.
All right, perfect. All right, so like Tim said, we've already, all the other boards have approved this. We just have to sign off on it. Do I have a motion? Do
Motion granted.
I have a
Second.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Grunwald,
Yes.
Selectman Matthews,
Yes.
and Selectman Pacheco.
Yes.
All right, this is another one that has to be assigned in person too. So.
All right.
Okay. Reserve fund transfer request by the Board of Selectmen for the Highway Department full-time. I know you guys talked about this. I wasn't at the last meeting. But we had somebody that was working for us. Then we weren't sure what was going to happen with funding. Now we have the funding back, but the highway super surveyor didn't put it back in the budget or didn't ask for it. But we do need it. Otherwise, we'll be down a snowplower for the town. So I think it would behoove us to move forward with that. So I'll entertain a motion to send the reserve fund transfer over to the Finance Committee for approval.
Granted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Grunwald,
Yes.
Selectman Pacheco,
Yes.
and Selectman Matthews.
Yes.
All right, and before, if I may, Lisa, we actually got a second reserve fund transfer today. It came from the fire chief. Apparently their air compressor that they use to service their air packs apparently broke. So it's now out of service. So he proposed a transfer request for $45,000. He asked if the board could act on that tonight so that can be expedited as quick as possible.
Where can we take that out of?
From the reserve fund is what his request was.
There's no money in the capital budget for fire department that they haven't used yet?
There might be. I think
I
it
would
was
have to-
actually allocated last meeting for the work at the Station 1.
All right, how much, we don't know how much is left in that budget.
Yeah, I'd have to have my budget in front of me and go through it with Kim. And I did talk, I emailed the chief about this morning. I know that there was a concern about it, and I had recommended the FinCom reserve only to make sure that it's expedited and that it gets done, given that the air packs are a critical part of firefighting.
No, I get that. I think we should make a motion to approve to move on to the reserve fund unless there's another way to pay for this. If there's another, if it can come out of capital equipment for the fire department or something like that, should be taken out of there first. And then I think the board needs to know what we have left in the reserve fund.
I'll grant that motion.
Do you have a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Selectman Grunwald,
yes,
Selectman Matthews,
Yes.
and Selectman Pacheco.
Yes.
All right, I'll find out the reserve fund number for you.
All right, written purchase description for the Council on Aging addition / renovation project. David?
Based upon the information that I was given by the board relative to doing strictly, or a vote of the board to just look specifically at a cost for just the renovation, not, I originally, based upon the building committee, had put together a written purchase description that include 3 options. One was a new Council on Aging, another was a joint building between the Council on Aging and the library. The third was strictly the renovation. This is basically the same written purchase description in that, but it only looks at specifically the renovation and not the other 2 options. The goal of it was to take a look at program needs, specifically identifying what types of things are being done about over there, as well as what types of things they want to do in the future, looking at that dynamic, and then going out and getting an estimated cost of how much, number one, how much space would be needed. Number 2, how much would it cost, including not only the actual construction cost, but the soft costs, including architectural costs, prevailing wage, ADA compliance, and any other code upgrades that would be required. Bob and I did talk to Bruce about this, and I don't know if Bob wants to jump in here. And we did have a discussion about what we were trying to do. And we told him that it was going to be on the agenda for this evening. And just to go through the methodology, we had a program, part of the written purchase description was to look at the program needs, to look at the building needs in terms of giving us some kind of a conceptual design, whether it's a bump out in the front. There might be another way of looking at the building in terms of something other than the bump out, looking at a construction cost, doing some kind of a means data study that, is a standard, industry standard in terms of, a proposal that would give us an estimate of costs in terms of trying to figure out if the 550 is actually enough. And we had a discussion about that with Bruce also, that, we may, find that it may be sufficient. However, if it's not, would it be worthwhile to consider maybe spending a little bit more and getting a little bit more for a longer term solution for the council versus, and if the new building at some point is constructed, that's all going to be space that's going to be used by other town departments. So the money that would be spent on it would be sort of a multi-purpose kind of, for a multi-purpose kind of building that could be used in the future. And I have a methodology and I have resources that we have available, based upon the building study, I guess it was done a number of years ago, building and assessing records, and also doing some kind of a walkthrough. There are a couple things here. One, if the study is less than $10,000, it can be a best business practice. However, it's also under 30B, under the exemptions. This type of work is exempt, design and architectural services, as long as they're not a design selection type of process where we're doing, full as-built kind of plans. It's more of a conceptual plan, more of a planning document in terms of a feasibility study versus a planning document to actually do construction in terms of a final plan and bid specifications and sub-bidders and that kind of thing. So, you know, I have two things out there now that, you know, one, the building committee had asked me to do. This is the second one in terms of the board at the last meeting saying that they wanted a price, and I put this together based upon that. If this is not the document you want us to do, and if I misunderstood specifically what it was that you wanted me to do at the last meeting, then now's the time to get that out here so that we can all have a discussion and figure out specifically what you want us to take a look at.
Robbie, were you here to talk about this?
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. I was asked by Lisa to represent the building department, the building committee, I'm sorry. I guess I'm vice chair of the building committee. So we had a discussion with Council on Aging originally about what they wanted to do with the building. As we know, they have funding for 550 that they had a petition article on the last town meeting, which was approved. So the question really was, what do they want for the money, and what are they trying to come up with? And the Council on Aging's committee is they're getting anxious to do something with the project. The thought was, and the building committee voted on doing a feasibility study to see what the need is, to try to ascertain that need, and then what our best cost is. And maybe it is just doing a small addition. They're looking at like 550, and this is numbers, I don't know where they actually got their numbers from. They said they've talked to a couple people, but nothing official because they have to go through the procurement. They have to go through the procurement laws. But they think that they're going to get around 550 square feet for $550,000, which seems like a really big number. When I asked them how they came up with that, they kind of just wanted to do a little bump out. I don't know if they actually know exactly what they need for space. The feasibility study would really do that for them. So sit down with them and see what they need for program space and come up with a program area, kind of like we did with the police station. Police station, we had the engineer sit down with them. They went over the whole, what they have, what they need, what's the standard in the community for our surrounding communities, and then come up with a number. And that might be 500 square feet. It might be 5,000 square feet. I don't know that number. And it really comes down to what's the appetite of the board. Is the appetite of the board to say, well, this is the money they have and come up with what you can do for that money? Or is the appetite of the board is what's their need short term, what's their need long term, and come up with a feasibility to see what the plan is long term for the police station. Police station, for the senior center, and go from there. And like I had the conversation with Bruce about, if the town goes and spends this money now on this and it's just a short-term fix, then that doesn't really necessarily behoove what the town's long-term process is. And, if it spends $550,000 and it's going to have to do upgrades to do that, because it currently doesn't have a lift system that gets people from the first floor to the second floor, which is going to be required. There's going to be require an elevator. If you have interior stairs on a public building that has both public access up and down, you're going to have an elevator. So pretty much anything they do to do an addition on is going to require an elevator, which is a cost that supposedly they have built into that number. Without doing a feasibility study and seeing what the quote's actually going to be, we don't know if that's going to cover that. So my recommendation to the board is to do a feasibility study, send an engineer there, whether it's somebody that we have on staff of the town, maybe there's a couple that we want to talk to. It could be Andy DiGiamo Compass Group did the feasibility study for the police station. Maybe I'm sorry, they didn't. They did the program space of the police station. Maybe that's somebody the town wants to reach out to. As David said, on the procurement laws on the 30B, we're not required to necessarily go through the entire procurements. We can go to, we don't have to go through the whole bid process for the procurement. Under $10,000, we don't anyhow. So it really comes down to what the board's appetite is. In my opinion, and I'm the one that made the motion at the building committee, I think that you should look at what they're going to need long-term, short-term, and then make an educated decision from there how you want to proceed, whether that's a small addition, maybe it's a larger addition, maybe it's no addition at all and put money towards doing a full rebuild of the building. I mean, those questions all can be answered and the board can have an intelligent decision if you do the feasibility study.
It'll also give you the pros and cons of the different options. You can say, all right, well, maybe doing the bump out is one option, but there may be another way to look at the problem and reallocate space and do some other type of renovation that maybe we aren't thinking about or they aren't thinking about. And
Correct.
it gives you more leeway in terms of how you want to approach the problem.
Correct, and it could be that they need 1,000 square feet instead of 500, but the way to do that is all on one level on the back of the building and not have a two-level system. Well, that's going to save a lot of money because you don't have to do any excavation. You don't have to worry about the septic. Depending on where you do it, you might have to worry about the septic. You might be able to do all that and get for the same 550, but should not have a feasibility study and not know exactly what they need and just to go along with what they're requesting. You're not necessarily getting the best bang for your buck.
The other part too is that the feasibility study, whoever we hire as our architect / designer for the feasibility study, will be meeting with the Council on Aging. So they will have direct input into the process in terms of what their programmatic needs are. And, be able to say, this is, we want to do these type of activities right now. And these are the activities we're currently doing, but we want to do additional activities that we now don't have space for. How do we do that? And is there another way?
And Lisa, as you may remember, that's part of the process. Oops, I just lost power. That's part of the process of actually doing it. The first one would normally be the feasibility study. The second one would be a program space design on the feasibility study. And then the third would be actually artistic renderings from the program space that's required. I mean, that's pretty much the same. That's pretty much the same flow we had with the police station.
I'll agree and disagree. We didn't do a feasibility study for the police station because we had the feasibility study done in 2016. So we opted not to go that way and we just did the program study. We went right to that and conceptual design. So we didn't do the feasibility study. So
right, because we already had it done.
Yeah, it was right. It was already done, and it's done for the senior center too. I mean, we can still do another one. I mean, it's up to the board. We can still do another one. I just don't. I know that they're under. They want to see a building built, and maybe they can use some of the old feasibility study and not reinvent the wheel, and then do a program study at the same time. Maybe they can do both.
That was my original recommendation when I spoke in the past, and I apologize if I didn't include that, was to take the feasibility study that's already there and then approach the seniors and see what their request is on this one and and update it. I wasn't saying from ground floor. I was saying what they've already have and then maybe upgrade it from what there's a different need now that wasn't there then, or less of a need now that wasn't then.
Right.
In the purchase description under resources, that original study is included as one of the documents that the architect or designer would be taking a look at as part of the study.
When I was looking over the proposal that you wrote, though, it said the feasibility study was in 2010, so that's not correct.
Yeah, I know. I just noticed that actually.
Right. And the other thing it said is just to look at a bump out in the front of the building. So it was very specific to that. It didn't give an opportunity to look at the whole building itself.
Okay,
I think it was too restrictive and not wide enough to offer some other suggestions, right? Because
yeah, that's what came out actually of the last meeting, is that the discussion focused on doing the bump out and do we have enough money? Is the 550 going to be enough? And that's what sort of predicated the development of the written description that I sent out to everybody. So I would agree if that's something the board wants done, I'll be happy to make those changes.
Trevor?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think One of the things I guess first I'll mention, one of the things I really want to make sure is that if we do this addition, right, say we go forward with it, I think it's not the long-term solution for the COA, right? No matter what, like at some point they're going to have to do a full, maybe I like the idea of the COA/library, but I want to figure out what we can do with this, the current building after the addition, how the town can use that, for a long time, right? So we're not just putting a lot of money into this addition and then quickly that not being really used and moving on to a new building. So I don't know if that can be built into a feasibility study as well, like what this can be sunset as, or what, the next steps of this building would be. But yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on that. I mean,
I think that's why through the building committee, that's why they voted the way they did, was to look at 3 different options, because it would give us a wider range of things to consider. So, that's why they did the addition, then a new building or a joint building with the
Yeah.
library. But I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I really don't know what took place.
yeah, I think what I really remember from the last meeting that we just want to put a dollar value on something, right? Because a lot of people have different opinions on what it's going to cost to do this addition, but I'd like to get a dollar value. And then like about the, I think it's a big decision we have to make if we find out we do need an elevator, which Bob, you sound like you're pretty confident we will need an elevator. That's going to be a huge part of the expense, right? Where I've heard other people, before say we might not need to do that. And, I mean, you seem pretty confident that we will. So that's an important kind of thing to know.
Yeah, Trevor, I thought the same thing, is that we probably wouldn't need one where we have a walkout from top and bottom. And then I spoke to Andy DiGiamo specifically. I saw him down the fire station. He was looking at the new doors, and I brought up that point. I said, well, Andy, where they have access in and out upstairs and downstairs? And he said, no, Bob. The way it works is if there's interior stairs in the building, you're required to have the elevator. I said, well,
Yeah.
the police station didn't. We didn't have upstairs is not open to the public in the police station. And B, we still had to apply for a waiver, and we got a waiver because we said we're not going to have upstairs open to the public. The COA doesn't want to do that. They want to have open to the public upstairs and down. And he was pretty confident it's going to require an elevator.
Yeah. So that's an important thing to note.
The other part of that is I'm sure that because the building hasn't had any substantial renovations in a long time, that it's sort of a de facto grandfathered situation. And back in the day when ADA came about, there used to be a thing called reasonable accommodation, where if you could reasonably accommodate a person on a floor or an accessible area, that you could move the service down to that person and accommodate them there. That's long gone. So
Okay.
if there's a certain percentage dollar-wise that we're spending on that building, I would estimate probably the building has a value of around $850,000. If we're spending $550 to renovate it, you are going to kick in all of the ADA standards that, in terms of door handles, width of corridors, bathrooms. The other thing you have to keep in mind too is that it's going to be a prevailing wage job, and they'll have file sub bids. It's a more comprehensive process than you would do at your home, where you say, I just want to add 500 square feet on, build me a room. And it doesn't work like
It
that.
better not cost $1,000 a square foot.
George?
Oh, I just would like to see a study and see, what the cost is and does it make sense or not.
On just the addition, or all 3, or study/program, conceptual design?
Just on what the COA is requesting, just on the building.
Okay.
I don't think that would cost all that much. Probably, I don't even want to guess, but I don't see where that would be prohibitive. Because without knowing what the numbers are, it's really difficult to discuss this.
Yeah, I think so. Say if we just find out how much it's going to cost to build, if that's the only thing we focus on right away, it's just what will the addition cost, right? And then we say we find out it's going to cost over $500,000. That might change, the folks at the COA, their whole opinion on this. Maybe they want it, maybe they might say it's not worth that. Let's focus on the long-term building a new building, right? But that's why I think I like the idea of doing the 3 options and showing those, but that might convolute the whole kind of discussion a little more. If
Well, it's also going to throw it out a little bit more, because if it comes back really high, then we have to start all over again. So
okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just trying to do 3 things at one time rather than making this prolonged, because if it comes back and it's going to cost, I'm just whatever.
No, that makes sense.
4 million.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to cost. So
okay, so that makes sense. I think I can see that. So
in terms of what was written for the purchase description, for the renovation only, does the board agree in terms of how it's segmented, in terms of part of it being the programmatic space, the other part being sort of actually a cost estimate prepared, based upon whatever the designer or architect determines, and then some kind of a conceptual plan with pros and cons. Is that what we're looking for?
That's what I'd like to see.
yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So we're good with that? Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Anything else, Bobby?
Do you want some kind of motion to send to the building committee, or are you going to handle it through David and the Board of Selectmen?
No, we'll, I guess we could just we'll uphold what the decision of the building committee, because it's basically the same thing, right? What David just said.
Okay, I just didn't know if you want to do a vote or not. If not, then you're good, and that'll be it for me.
No, we'll do a formal vote, just so it's on the record. So I'll entertain a motion to move forward with what David just said.
Motion granted.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
At least that sounds like one of my motions right there.
Sorry.
Whatever happened, just let's.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, appreciate it, Bob. Oh, he's muted, but I think he was saying thank you and have a great night.
I did. Thank you. Have a great night. Goodbye.
Thank you, Bobby.
All right, so I just got to do the roll call on that. Selectman Grunwald,
Yes.
Selectman Matthews,
Yes.
and Selectman Pacheco.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, so written request to hold Wrap in Love scarf event at the COA on November 21st. Do I have a motion to allow them to use the COA?
Motion granted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Grunwald,
Yes.
Selectman Matthews,
Yes.
and Selectman Pacheco.
Yes. Okay, approval of the roadway striping to K5 Corporation, 0.049 for white striping and 0.045 for yellow striping. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion granted.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Selectman Grunwald,
Yes.
Selectman Matthews,
Yes.
and Selectman Pacheco.
Yes.
All right.
Number 12, I just asked to put this on because I know that we've had informal discussions about it. I'm not sure which way we're headed in. Several things have to be done, and this is about the discussion on the separation of the Board of Health and the Soil Board from duties of the Board of Selectmen. I don't know if any of you have ever gone on a soil board inspection. It's riveting stuff. Riveting.
I did. I went to the soil board meeting last week, and I think it reinforced my opinion that it should be separated, because I do not understand a lot of the stuff that I think someone else who has much more informed could probably do a better job than I can.
Yeah, the pile's too high. It's too close to the wetlands. This has to be graded and da 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 da.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, you can understand it going through it, but I do think that the expertise comes from those that are closer to knowing what they're doing than the,
Yeah.
unless one of us has an expertise or enthusiasm to be on that board. It's just one of the things that we can probably look forward to changing, and, having a separate board or putting it under conservation, that might even be a better idea. The Board of Health, same thing. I mean, I've been the Board of Health chair, George is the Board of Health chair now. You'll be it sometime, Trevor. It's really difficult. Like I had to go in and study, like, how far does the well have to be from the wetlands? How about septic? How about this? And understand the grading. And there is a lot involved in that. And like, especially with this pandemic, and what are the restrictions for smoking, and what are the new laws, and how are they going to all coincide with the new state regulations coming down? That it's a lot more involved than perhaps any of the three of us have time to delve into. I don't know how everybody feels about it. We would have to go for a special act of legislation in order to do that. The easiest way is to have it still remain an elected board of health. But I'm just throwing it out there for us to consider as we move forward.
No, I think that's true. I will mention, by the way, at the soil board meeting, Kevin did a great job of explaining things to me, though. I just want to put that on the record.
Don't say that. Don't say that too loud. His head will get a little big.
But yes, no. But at least as you're saying, I know it's not going to be easy to make this change, but I do something we should definitely go through with for both.
On the Board of Health, I think I would have an issue to have that an elected board. I would like to see qualified people on the Board of Health that have some understanding of health issues.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I thought that too, George. At first, I thought it really should be an appointed board, but then there was feedback saying, no, the board should be elected. I don't know. I feel like, an engineer might want to be on the Board of Health. Maybe somebody who's a nurse might want to be on the Board of Health. Maybe somebody, that's an environmental,
Well, if they're appointed, then we could do that.
Right. No, I agree.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No, I totally agree with you, but I just, that's something that we're going to have to work on as we bring this forward to townspeople, or however this has to be done. We can do it all in one act. If we get an act through the legislation, a special act, we can put it in. And also we have to review the bylaws and see exactly and specifically what it says for Board of Health and Soil Board. So
I believe the soil board is actually just bylaws. I don't think you need special legislation for that.
no, but are there any bylaws for the Board of Health?
That one there might be. Me and Mike McHugh were actually talking with that earlier. So depends on interpretation. It's what it basically boils down to.
Yeah. So I think that's just something that, we can all review and start to think about as we move forward.
Yeah. Do we know what other town are, similar towns to us, and is it usually an elected position, or is it a,
Yeah, it's usually an elected position.
Every town I've ever worked in, and that's like 5 or 6, it's always been elected.
Okay.
And in Somerset, it is the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think every town is different, but yeah, I just think it's something that we should all start to think about as we move forward.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay.
All right.
So-
What's the matter, George?
No, I'm saying we're not voting on this tonight.
No. I just think that, we need to really think about it, and maybe we can reach out to Mark Rich and have him or Joe Fair and have them make some recommendations to us as how to move forward with this. What would be best? Would it be a special act of legislation? Would it just be a town meeting vote? Go from there, because I think I'm not sure how easy either one is. One's easier than the other way. So, because right now, technically, even though we're elected as selectmen, we're also elected as the Board of Health and the Personnel Board. So it's kind of like the same thing that we were going to do with the town clerk and the highway supervisor. We would have to have a town meeting vote, and then I think it would have to go to a ballot vote. So it might be easier to do it all in one and go through a special act of legislation to get it done.
I think you'd only have to go through that particular procedure if you're making it an appointed position. If you're making, so you might need to do that. No,
Correct.
that's, yeah. But if you're keeping it as an elected a position, which I believe the Board of Health, even though you don't elect it separately, I think it's still considered an elected position. I think it might just, it could be as easy as a bylaw change, but I think Mark Rich will probably be best to tell us that.
Yeah, if, exactly, like, if George and I were going back and forth, like, we might want to see it appointed. If we do,
Mhm.
then that, under 41, section 1B, it would have to go through the process that we talked about.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, so should we reach out to Mark Rich and ask him for his ideas and give us something in writing?
That's a good way to go.
Okay, Trevor, you good with that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, moving on. Health insurance renewal rates. David?
Okay. The Insurance Advisory Committee met with with Maya, and Maya had proposed rates for the Medicare supplemental insurance for the calendar year 2021. The MedX 2 recipients there's no increase, and the Managed Blue for seniors is 2.2% increase. The Insurance Advisory Committee voted to recommend that these rates be adopted for the upcoming year.
All right, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion granted.
Second,
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
Selectman Grunwald,
yes,
Selectman Matthews,
Yes.
and Selectman Pacheco.
Yes.
All right.
Addition of the vision plan to employee health insurance options. David?
During that same meeting, the Insurance Advisory Committee, it was brought up that Maya has a vision plan that they would like to offer to the town on the next renewal, which would be July 1 of next year, where they would offer a totally voluntary plan that the employees would pay for. However, because it's part of a group, there would be a reduced rate, and it would be entirely voluntary. There would be nothing to be paid for by the town. The employee would decide, similar to a dental plan, that that's something they wanted to do. And I think that might be something that you might want to consider offering to the employees. There is a requirement. We have a total group of about 165 plus or minus enrollees total in the insurance programs. And we'd have to have 10% of those individuals agree to sign on for them to actually offer the plan. So I just want something for the tickler file to talk about in probably next April or May.
So when we start to talk about contract negotiations,
That could be,
it would be part of that conversation. So
Yeah.
we can tuck that right into there. That would be great.
All right.
All right, thank you so much. Division of parcel of land and tax title on Middleborough Road.
Okay. I've had a discussion with Mike regarding a parcel of land that is on Middleborough Road. It's adjacent to the boat ramp, and the property is large enough that it could potentially be subdivided into two individual lots. And given, where, there's a couple things to preface it. One is, do we really want to sell that parcel of land as tax title land and bring it back on the tax rolls? If we do, there is a great incentive there to split it into two separate lots for a fee of probably $4,000 to $6,000. We could have the lot laid out. It'd be an A&R and type of plan. It's approval not required. And you then have, two parcels that potentially could bring in, 300,000 or 400,000 versus 150,000 to 200,000. But the other thing is that the board might want to think about that parcel in terms of expanding parking at the boat ramp. And if that's part of the future plan, then we may be, thinking about taking a look at that, and particularly if you're thinking about, and we had a lot of discussions about this actually as part of the finance team when we were talking about the kiosk for the boat ramp, and how we would queue up people and get them into the get them into the lot, and then have a way to allow them to exit too, and whether we could use an extra piece of land to do that. So I'm just, number one, I'm throwing it out there in terms of if this is something we should consider selling, whether it's something that might want to have a little bit more discussion before we make that decision. I personally haven't gone out and taken a look at the land. I'm planning on doing that in the next couple of days. I can report back to the board at the next meeting, and you guys can think about it a little bit, and then we could decide, we want to keep it, we want to sell it. If we're going to sell it, do we want to split it? So
I read it over. There's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
And I want to look at.
I wasn't expecting a decision tonight. I just wanted to just get it out there, I guess.
And then the only thing about the boat ramp is I'm not sure if that, if those parking spaces were created because of the size of our portion of the pond. So I'd have to look at that. I don't know if, I don't know why it was built that way. So I definitely have to, I'd have to understand that more.
The flip side of that is if you expand the parking lot, means you're going to have more vehicle traffic and more boats in the pond. So
Yeah, exactly. And it does that.
do you want that?
Right. We have to look at it, weigh both sides out. So definitely, does anybody have anything for David to look into for us?
Nope, I'm not
Not right now.
right now. I mean, I'd like to see what he says when he goes checks it out.
The only thing,
Go ahead, George.
the only thing I'd like to throw out for now, I don't know too much about it. I haven't seen the area, but I don't think I would be too anxious right now to split it and sell it, even though it would bring some money into the town. That land may be more valuable to us at some point than a couple more houses in town.
The one additional as part of the factor that Mike had brought up, not relating to this parcel, but when we were talking about thinking about hiring a company to basically subdivide the land, Mike also mentioned that we might want to start thinking about the police station school parcel, because that's just, at the present time, that's just one big parcel of land. If you remember, as part of the licensing agreement with the school, we had to break out an area around the school as a defined area that the school had control of, the Freetown Elementary. So at some point, the town may want to think about how they're going to approach those two parcels up there, and whether we want to subdivide them up so there are defined bounds on each of the property. And that would be something that you could do out of the engineering account if there was an interest in doing that, depending upon what the cost is.
Okay. I guess we can put that on for the next agenda to stop, for one of those things to look at.
All
Perfect. Parking concerns at intersection of Narrows Road and South Main Street.
That sort of resolved itself. The person who had filed it has noticed that it hasn't been used ever since he noticed it for that purpose. So it sort of resolved itself. If it comes back, we'll let you know.
All right. Winter meetings by boards and committees.
So this was brought up. Yep, this was brought up. Yeah, I'm on. Some of the boards and committees are looking to have meetings in the buildings now that, it's getting a little on the chilly side outside. So the pavilion isn't really a conceivable option for a lot of them. But they aren't sure if they're allowed to use the buildings. Well, it's not exactly fully open to the people. and there's open meeting law concerns about having, meetings behind locked doors.
And then I think Charlie Baker's new, what he came out with today was saying no more than 10 people.
Right.
I don't know if that impacts this, because are they usually less than 10 people? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It depends on the meeting, really.
Yeah.
And we may even be rolling back, because if we get 3 consecutive weeks as a red community, we have to take a step back. In terms
Yeah,
of
the governor has issued new guidelines.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't know have you seen those?
I
Yeah.
have not.
I
did
saw
not.
that. I saw the headlines of it today. This
Yeah.
afternoon.
I mean,
I knew
amongst
that there
the,
was something in the works. I just didn't know. This is what.
Yeah.
10 people inside, 25 outside, and we're shut down between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. Those are just the basic.
Yeah.
yeah, and everybody's required to wear masks
Masks.
outside.
Yep.
Uh,
So why don't we just take this under advisement, and, we're gonna go according to the governor's protocol and recommendations and guidance, and we'll look at this at the next meeting and see if the governor changes that by the next meeting. So
So
right now,
if a board and committee wants to have a meeting, like just for examples purposes, on November 9th, should I tell them that they can feel free to have the meeting? They just have to adhere to that. So continue the meeting if you go over 10. I don't know.
I guess that would be up to them. I mean, we already set the guidance that, how they wanted to conduct their meeting was how they wanted to conduct their meeting. So
I think their question is more that the board controls the town hall and the actual buildings. They just want to know if they can use them or if it should be same as it is during the day.
well, I don't know. I'll throw it out to the board for discussion.
I mean, Tim, what are they trying to do? Come into the town hall and have a meeting?
Yeah, some committees actually use the downstairs hallway for their actual meetings. They set up the tables in there. They essentially want to know if they're allowed to do that, or if the board just is still saying town halls only, appointment only, or strongly encouraged, I should say, and the door is still locked. So I don't know.
I can't see them using town hall. Like, I'm just figuring, in my mind, like, how do you socially distance 6 feet apart and have a meeting in town hall? You'd have to go like the whole length of the hallway, right?
Right, pretty much. But I know that some of them don't like the Zoom meetings.
Right. No, I get that. I mean, like I said, I'm not the chair of every committee, and nor is anybody else here. So it's hard to know how they conduct their business. I mean, right now it's set up, well, for early voting, but that's all done now. So until tomorrow, which is in live voting. I mean, if they wanted to use the senior center, I'm going to throw it out there. I'm not going to tell another board, nor do I have the authority to tell another board how to conduct their business.
Yeah.
But, the guidelines, I think we should just follow the governor's guidelines. If that meeting fits, okay. If not,
So I should just let them know that the guidelines are the guidelines, follow the guidelines.
Yep.
If they need to use the buildings, feel free, but just follow the guidelines.
100% we're behind the guidelines.
Okay.
100%.
All right, I think that's helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, recommendation of the finalists for the town administrator vacancy. Recommendations come from the preliminary screening committee for the town administrator vacancy.
Yep.
Everybody good?
Yep. That we wrote a letter to the board. Well, from the chairman of that committee. The 4 candidates that the committee is recommending, we actually interviewed all of them in executive session, so we're forwarding to you guys. Miss Angie Lopes Ellison, Mr. Thomas Hutka, Mr. Jamie Kelly, and Mr. Peter Jankowski. I don't know if the board wants to accept that recommendation, if they want to, or what you guys want to do.
No, I mean, we said, we had a protocol of how we're going to move forward with this. So the next thing that we would do is interview these 4 candidates in open session. That's another thing we're going to have to decide. Do we want to do this, in person? Do we want to do a Zoom interview? I mean, there's a lot of things to consider. I mean, I don't know.
And also Tim's going to be out, right?
Yeah.
That's
So-
the other thing we've taken into consideration.
Yeah, I was looking at maybe doing it the 16th through the 20th, because Tim comes back on the 11th. And maybe he can, I don't know, set some things up, maybe even email the candidates and set some times up. I don't know what you guys are thinking.
Yeah, I'm flexible. You know, that works for me. So I think, I mean, should we do, I was assuming it was going to be a Zoom meetings. Just, I think it's on the safer side, you know?
I think for something like that, I prefer in person.
I'm with both of you. I'm stuck in the middle. I feel like you can't get a feel for a person if you're
Yeah.
not like sort of near them and know like how's their body language, like are they, you know what I mean, like I don't know, there's a lot to in person. How do they enter a room, how do they leave a room? You know, there's a lot more interaction that you can take place. I mean, I don't know.
Where would we hold those at town hall in person if we did that?
I'd actually think about using the library at the at FES.
Okay.
At the
Makes sense.
elementary school. It's comfortable in there. It's a lot of space in there, so we could probably do it there. But how about if you guys put some times that you're available between the 16th and the 19th? And then maybe, I don't know if you want to do 2 nights, you want to do them all of them in one night. And what do you want to do? Do you want to do it 30-minute interviews with maybe 15 minutes in between? So really 45, or do you want to do it less than that?
I think that sounds, half an hour sounds about right.
Mhm.
Would you want to do, I'm sorry, go ahead. Trevor.
No, go. I was just gonna say but this much heads up. I'm fine to any day of the week. You know, I think probably one day we could probably get them all done. I mean,
Yeah, well, that was my question going to be. Could we do just one afternoon and do all 4?
yeah,
Yep, I was just throwing it out to the board, whatever way you guys want to do it. So, I mean, and like I said, this is open meeting, so if anybody wants to like be at the meeting, they can, you know. But let's look at some dates between the 16th and the 19th. I'm open to, I don't think I have anything going on. So maybe we, you know, look at the 17th. Maybe we set aside some time on the 16th to review how we're going to do the 17th, and maybe we do them on the 17th, or maybe we set some time at our board meeting on the 16th and do the interviews on the 18th. So we don't have 2 nights in a row.
yeah.
Okay, so on the 16th, we can do Zoom, right?
And on the 16th, we're going to do Zoom, yes, a regular board meeting. And then we'll set aside some time, we'll put this on the agenda, set aside some time, review what how the interview process is going to work, so we're all on the same page, and then we'll have the interviews on the 18th. Are you guys good with that?
That's perfect. That works for me.
Yeah,
like
it
that.
works for me too. What time on the 18th?
So do you want it 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6?
Yeah, that works.
So 2 to 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
And do we have to reach out to anyone at Freetown Elementary just to?
Hold on, David, I can't hear you.
Still can't hear you, David.
Still can't hear
Yeah,
you.
David, you're muted.
The other thing I was gonna just throw out there, we have to remember that we have to ask the same questions of each candidate. We can't ask different questions. You can ask a follow-up, but you can't ask different questions. And I know that there is a score sheet that we've used many times before that maybe, Tim, you can send that out to the board. And then any questions you have that you want to formulate, send them to Tim. So then that way he has them all and we can go from there. So let's start off with, I don't know, maybe 4 questions from each of us first. Okay,
Sounds good.
all right,
What was the start time, Lisa?
2.
2? Okay.
The only hiccup might be that the elementary school is still still in session, so I'll just have to look at that again, and I'll reach out and see what they say.
Okay.
Or always bump it back to 3 o'clock if we need to.
I got a quick question. Did you look at the MMA hiring process that they recommended?
I did.
Did anything stand out for you guys? No? Okay.
No, I felt like, you know, they said some communities use, you know, a consulting firm, some don't, but just as long as you keep the process the same. And one of the recommendations was after the meeting is, after all the interviews are over that night, go into executive session to talk about contract negotiations, so you can start the process almost immediately. Is that what you recollect, George?
Yeah, pretty much. No, what I wanted to at least review a little bit was their recommendation of using professional recruiters. You know, if we should wind up not finding anybody that we really want to hire with the 4 interviews, maybe that's something we could consider.
Totally, I agree.
Fingers crossed, we're gonna find the right person.
David? Why can't we hear you?
I know-
Hold up notes.
Yeah, write out some notes, David. I know you guys said you preferred in person, but should I be offering Zoom as an option? Or is it like an absolute last result kind of thing?
I can go either way, honestly. I mean, I live on Zoom now, so I'm kind of
Right,
getting used
don't
to
we
it.
all?
But if the board wants to be in person, I can.
Yeah.
And,
I mean,
and
I would prefer not to.
Okay.
we can bring, and if somebody lives far away, and they can't be here, like if they live, I don't know, on the other side of the United States and they can't come over here, I mean, I understand that. I'll bring our laptops so we can start somebody on Zoom if we have to. I mean, that's as a last resort, but I can say, I think, Tim, when you send it out there, say that the board truly requests to have you meet in person.
Okay.
Right? Is that what you want, George?
Yes.
Trevor? You're
Yeah.
good either way.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
good either way. If that's
Okay. All right.
So basically make them ask us for Zoom is what you're saying. All right.
David, you can be on Zoom.
He actually just sent me a message. He wanted to make sure that, because some of the applicants are from out of state, he wanted to make sure that they had said that they'd want to come to the-
How many are from out of state?
2 of those 4 are actually
Really?
currently live out of state.
Okay. Can we get the resumes prior to that?
Yep, I'll be sending those out tomorrow morning.
So
Okay, great.
depending on what state it is, right? You might have an issue.
Oh, that's a
We
good,
could. That's a good
Travel.
point.
Yeah.
good point.
So, that's a good, yeah.
David, was I reading your mind actually? That's kind of scary. All right. Next, weekly warrants for the month of November 20th through numbered 019 to 023. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion granted.
Second,
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Grunwald,
yes.
Selectman Matthews,
Yes.
and Selectman Pacheco.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, memorandum of agreement between the highway union and RE transfer station attendant. We just need a motion to sign that agreement.
Motion granted.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman
Okay.
Matthews,
Yes.
Selectman Grunwald,
yes.
and Selectman Pacheco.
Yes. October 19th and October 27th minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion granted.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Selectman Grunwald,
yes.
Selectman Matthews,
Yes.
and Selectman Pacheco.
I will abstain from the one that I wasn't at.
Okay. But yes on the other one?
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. David, can you talk?
Looks like a no.
It does say he's muted.
Yeah, it does say he's mute. Can you unmute him, Tim?
Now he's unmuted now, and it's still.
Nothing. That's weird.
David, can you forward us some notes from your town administrator's report? Because I know that there were some things that you specifically wanted to talk about that I think are important.
Maybe if he called in too, that work. I think we're gonna see him throw his phone, throw his computer.
I'm gonna see the computer fly through the air onto the other side of the room. All right, while he's working on that, you want to move on?
Good, yeah, let's do
Okay,
that.
go ahead. Under Board of Health, COVID-19 concerns with cash at transfer station.
Right. Under the conditions that we're living under, I should say, handling of cash the way we do is problematic. And I'd like to revisit whether we want not to do that and just go to credit cards. Some places are doing that, but I don't know how that will be received. And there's a cost associated with credit cards. So I thought I'd throw that out there for discussion.
I guess my only thought would be is, are the credit card? I mean, credit cards, you still have to. Two people have to still exchange. You know.
No, what you
No.
do is you have a reader that the payer just scans his card through the reader. So the payer is the only one that touches their credit card, and they don't have to touch anything else.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
I think you already know how I feel about that. I still say that we have to accept cash at the transfer station. And I'm just wondering, are any of the other offices accepting cash? David, yes? No?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay. So that, I mean, we would
All right.
have to not have cash at any of those places. So, I mean, what we could do though, George, is we could put a sign that we prefer you pay with cash or debit card. I mean, we prefer you pay with debit or credit card. So we can say we prefer you pay that way. I mean,
We could.
then that way, I mean, they might think, oh yeah, I probably should, I don't want to cross contaminate or whatever, but
Yeah, like help keep our employees safe. Please pay with debit or
Right.
credit. You know what I
Right.
mean? Maybe just
Let
never
me
know.
check with Vicky how we can do that.
okay.
And I don't know if we have a portable scanner yet. I'm not sure how she scans the cards.
Okay.
So I'll find out on that.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay.
Do we have David back? Might. We'll see. No.
Nope.
All right. Personnel, staffing in the building and health office. So I did ask to put this on the agenda. And I said several meetings that, we're going through some stuff at town hall with, morale and I explicitly told you that I would be talking to all the employees there to get any feedback. What's going on? Why are you upset? What can we do to help? How can the board help you? And some of the recommendations that came back were that the building and health office, specifically Nadine, is overwhelmed with work. And I said, I cannot make those decisions. That please send a letter to the, through the chair to the board so you could all see what the concerns are there. I did, before I brought it forward, I also wanted to make sure that they had money in the budget for it. And if they start in January and go to June, and they do have money in the budget for it, and it would be a part-time employee. So I said that I would just, come back to the board and ask everybody what their thoughts are, and just go from there. I think someday, in the future, that office really needs to be divided, right? Like, you need to have the Board of Health have their own office and the building inspector have his own office, because there's a lot of stuff that gets dumped onto one person, and I understand that. So
Yeah.
I was just bringing it forward to you guys.
No, I read both letters, and I think it seems totally reasonable that she should get some help through a part-time. I think a part-time person, definitely. And I mean, I could totally just understand how when you're trying to actually get the job done, when you have to answer calls and deal with people walking in all day long, it's it's really easy to get sidetracked and kind of get overwhelmed. So I totally support posting a job to hire somebody to come in to answer the phones, and we'll have to define what that role is specifically, but just like a clerk position.
And I think Nadine has an idea of,
Yeah.
he only understands some, like, most of the stuff, right? So the things that are easily done, and I know that she does have some seniors through the work off program that are in there, but they can, their job expectation for them is limited, and their hours are also limited. So and then maybe as we move forward towards budget time, we can talk about the separation of both offices and truly making them separate. I mean, they do have some things that are combined, like well and septic and stuff like that when building, but maybe that's just something that we look at as we move forward into the future. Another thing that isn't on here as we move towards budget season and things to talk about is a zoning enforcement officer. I mean, right now the building inspector does that. We ask a lot of the building inspector. Like, he actually did some building stuff, and then he was taking care of the generator at the senior center, and then and he actually has his own things to get done. That there are a lot of things through the zoning enforcement agent that are not being done right now, and that might be something that we look forward to as we get closer to budget time and we understand that role better. I think that we need to have Jeff come in and talk about that. But that was another concern of his. Like, there are properties around town that are in trouble and need, and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
I know a few right near my house. So I mean,
Right.
and you hear from the citizens and their neighbors that live around there, and they're getting frustrated, right?
Yeah.
And I get that. I mean, it's but there's just not we don't have enough bodies, really.
No, and there's a lot of follow-up to that, because now you have to get involved with the police department, and then you have to get involved with the courts, and then you have to send them a letter, and then there's follow-up, and then you have to go inspect it again.
Mhm.
And there's a lot. So say you have 10 properties in town that need that, that concern and that need that follow-up all the time, then your own work goes backwards. So, that's something I think that we should talk about as we move forward into budget season, and just put that on the burner. What do you
And
think?
I think one other thing to add to that, just in general, with the train coming to town, I think naturally there's going to be more development. So we're going to need to prepare for the future anyways, and have like, it might start off as a part-time person or additional couple roles or part-time, but I think these will develop into full-time important roles down the road someday.
Right. And I think that one thing we've asked for, but we haven't actually had a chance to go over, is everybody's job description and exactly what role. Remember, we talked about that.
Yeah.
We have to be able to do that. So again, as we move to budget season and we look at, hey, the building inspector is only supposed to be doing this, but he's actually doing this.
Yeah.
We need to start looking at those things and taking care of the people that really are doing the work,
Mhm.
and making sure that they have everything they need to get the work done.
I agree.
George?
Yep, no, I'm all on board with that.
All right. Like I said, I just went to go talk to them. I didn't make anybody any promises. I told them that I would bring it back to the board. So that's what I'm doing. So through the personnel board, I would make a motion to post for a part-time building and health clerk.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
All right, Selectman Grunwald,
yes,
Selectman Pacheco,
Yes.
and Selectman Matthews.
Yes.
All right.
Next, we have the senior clerk position in the town clerk's office. So we only have one application. So, oh no, sorry, wrong
You're
one,
skipping one.
wrong one. What am I skipping here? So 26. Yes, sorry. So post. So yeah, this is just kind of related to how we're going to go forward with this. So we have 11 or 12 applications, which is awesome. And the posting closes on the 5th. So I know and Tim's going to be out from the 4th to the 11th. So how are we going to, let's discuss how we're going to go forward with these final selection here.
I'd like to see Jackie and Cheryl and the town administrator and maybe you, Trevor, or George, or whoever, a smaller committee, and then bring back our recommendation to the board. I mean, Cheryl is the one that's going to be working with that person.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So
I'll make a motion to have a small group do the interviews. The town clerk, the assistant town clerk, a member of the board, and the town administrator.
Is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Grunwald,
Yes?
Selectman Pacheco,
Yes.
and Selectman Matthews.
Yes.
All right. Do we want to decide who that board member is?
I mean,
Volunteers?
yeah, it probably should,
Not it.
yeah, it should probably be. I'll take that position, George. If you don't have a problem with that as personnel board,
No,
does that make
that's
sense?
fine.
As personnel chair. So.
Perfect. All right.
And then I guess on that, when will we make that? We'll have to, we'll have to talk about when we'll schedule those,
Yeah, you guys can work that all out.
because it's going to be a similar time probably as the town administrator, but we'll figure that out. Okay.
Just before we go on, Trevor.
Yeah.
Since you guys have made that decision to go with that small committee, that's the decision you've made for the several times now.
Yep.
Previously, we used to have a hiring policy in place that kind of went by the wayside probably last summer. Should we look at reinstituting that?
What does it entail?
It's basically
curious.
exactly that. It's setting up a standard kind of a procedure, and it pretty much follows exactly what you guys have approved for several times in a row now.
That makes sense to me. Save some time in just this part of the whole process.
Right. So we don't have to do this for every position. So
Yeah.
I'll pull that and I'll have it on probably for the 16th or the 7th, whichever it fits.
Sounds
Yeah.
good to me.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, so now on to the Board of Health agent position. So the interim agent who we currently have now has withdrawn her consideration for the full-time position. And we've only got one application thus far. So we have to make a decision of what we're going to do about this. I'd like to have more than one applicant for the full-time role. I should note also that the interim, so it's Mary Kellogg, the interim, she will stick around until we get someone full-time, which is really awesome, and we appreciate that. But we will need, it's an important role, and we need to find the right person for the job. So do we need to advertise in a different way? Or I think we definitely need to extend it out, since I don't expect us to get many more applications in the next 3 days.
I have a question on that. Is there any possibility, probably not, but the surrounding towns, particularly Lakeville or maybe Dayton, they all have a Board of Health agent. Could we partner with any of these towns to?
I know Lakeville is not interested. I know that much. I'm not sure about any other towns around. I think it'd be a great thing. I wish we could do that. It'd be awesome. It seems like something that, there could be kind of an economy of scales if we could use, multiple towns, but I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I know David had talked to Lakeville, and they weren't exactly interested in full regionalization, but I believe they did offer, some help if we absolutely needed it. That was a while ago, so I don't know if that's still a valid option. But I know David did talk to Lakeville at the very least. And I know he was shaking his head, so I'm assuming that's Still
Can
the
you
case.
can you hear me now?
We can.
Yeah,
Look at
David.
that.
Welcome
All right.
back.
Welcome back.
Can you hear me now? It's like I'm like a Verizon commercial. Anyway, yeah, I did talk to Lakeville. They have no interest in doing it on a regional basis, and they did offer when we were in a pinch before we had hired Mary as the interim to allow us to in a pinch kind of thing to use them. So
What about Berkeley or
Yeah.
Rehoboth?
we could sit, yeah.
I would maybe email all of them and just see if anybody's interested. Even maybe there would be a 3-town, a tri-town.
That'd be ideal, I think. Seems to make sense to me, but
I mean, Dayton is a good sized town. They have a pretty good sized government.
so yeah, Diane, that sounds someone we should reach out to for sure. So, but for right now, for practical purposes, should we extend out this window for another month? So I'll accept a motion to push that out to, I guess, 12/5.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow you. What did we do?
So sorry. So there right now the application window closes on 11/5, and we only have one applicant.
Oh, okay. I see what
So
you're
I'm looking for a motion here to extend that out for another month.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Selectman Grunwald,
Yes.
Selectman Pacheco,
Yes.
and Selectman Matthews.
Yes.
And just for the record, that's a Saturday, so I'll actually make it just under a month. The 4th.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Now advertise. Now I guess this would be a second issue. First, I'll bring up for discussion. I know it's expensive to advertise this, but the current ways we've advertised it hasn't really yielded any, or only one applicant. So, what do you think we should do about that? I mean,
Well, one thing we could do, I don't think it'll really get us much, but to get it all out on Facebook, get the word out.
that's a very cheap option. I like that.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing you might want to look at is maybe contacting some of the colleges who have seniors that might be, as ending their college careers in December and be looking for a job, but like a health major or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we did actually, Tim and I spent some time trying to figure out how we could get it out. And I don't know if we ever found out if there was a Board of Health association. That might be another way. If they have a board out there that we can put it in the board.
We Googled it, but it wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be.
All right.
Yeah, it pretty much brought us to just an Indeed kind of setup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's what it was. All right. Okay.
Yeah. So I can post it in the newspaper. The Standard Times, I think, either does Indeed or Monster. I can't remember exactly which one. So it'll get up on there. But like Trevor said, it is kind of costly, so we haven't done that one just yet. We did post in the MMA, and only got one. So
Can you post on Monster or Indeed without posting in the newspaper?
I think you would need a credit card, which we're not really equipped to do that simply.
That's how they make their money.
Yeah, you have to pay on upfront for that one. So
And if you want to look at like a regional paper like the Boston Globe, you got to be ready to spend, $1,500 to $2,000 to put it in.
It's the last thing those newspapers are holding on to. That's what they got.
But the revenue source.
Yeah.
I just think we need to get the word out. Like, I would contact Bristol Community College or UMass Dartmouth. Even if they just post it up in there, maybe they have like a professor that comes in, an assistant professor that might be looking for work or something like that. I don't know, but it's worth a try.
Yeah.
Or like their guidance department or something like that. Job training.
What do we have for qualification requirements?
Everything.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to be a food service inspector. You have to be certified to do septic permits and things like that.
But if
You're not going to find that at BCC.
yeah, if we get somebody right, just graduated college, I think I'd be interested in getting that person those qualifications, right? And it's some,
Grooming them,
yeah, I'd definitely be interested in that.
because that's what we did with Derek. Derek did mostly restaurant inspections, and then we sent him to school to learn about, septic systems and blah, blah, blah. So, and then he learned from the engineers working with, because he works with engineers. They come to the board and
Yeah.
does the presentation. So yeah, if we got somebody that we could, sorry, hold on. Okay, if we could get somebody to groom, that's
Yeah,
an investment.
we're never going to find anyone that has all of the qualifications that isn't already a board of health agent at a similar town, so it's going to be tough. I think tough role to fill.
Yeah, I just
if,
pulled
if we have those kind of strict, parameters around it.
Right. I just pulled the posting. It's a bachelor's degree in public health, engineering, or environmental science preferred, although experience can be substituted. Minimum of 3 years experience as a health agent and or 5 years experience in the field of public health or environmental sanitation or an equivalent combination, and also a Massachusetts registered sanitarian.
That's a lot of qualification.
Yeah, I don't think. I
Certainly
mean,
is.
that really explains our current situation, right?
I'll make a motion through the personnel chair to have the personnel chair, David and Tim, work on a new posting, and we'll go from there. What do you think, George?
Good.
So I made a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Selectman Grunwald,
Yes.
Selectman Matthews,
Yes.
and Selectman Pacheco.
Yes.
That was out of order, but good enough.
Okay, so that's good. Now, next, unfortunately, I have to accept the resignation of Jeanette Tinsdale from the COA board and building committee effective 10/30/2020. So I guess I'll accept a motion to accept that resignation. I don't know if anyone has to say anything about this. Or...
Yeah, motion made.
Second, and also to send her a letter for thanking her for her years of service on the COA
Absolutely.
and the building committee.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Selectman Grunwald,
Yes.
Selectman Pacheco,
Yes.
and Selectman Matthews.
Yes. And then finally on personnel board, we have appointment of Samantha Resendes as election worker effective November 2nd, 2020. I'll accept the motion to appoint Samantha.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Selectman Grunwald,
Yes.
Selectman Pacheco,
Yes.
and Selectman Matthews.
Yes.
All right. So next is old business. We actually don't have any major updates to give on any of those. I don't know if anyone has anything they want to discuss.
Oh,
on
I
those.
do. I do, Tim.
Okay.
Okay. On the transfer station cameras, we have Comcast coming in to scope it out and give us a quote. But since then, I've spoken to Chief Abbott, and we discussed tying the cameras into the new police system.
Makes sense.
And I spoke to the company that installed that system, and we're going to get together and discuss that a little more. The system, he couldn't give me a firm quote, but we're looking somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 more than likely, which is still not too bad. There won't be, I don't believe that there'll be any monthly fees to keep things in the cloud or anything like that, but everything will be recorded.
I think that's an excellent idea. And I also think it should be on all town buildings.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, is if we're doing this now, if we look at, because I know there was one, we talked about having one at the town hall over the Dropbox.
Yep.
Oh, and then, I think that's a good idea.
When I speak to the person, I don't know his name offhand, but I'll relay that message, and maybe he can join us at our next meeting.
Yeah, and maybe we'll get a discount on overall, if we get more than one.
There you go. Yeah.
So,
All
Or,
right.
or if you and David want to meet with them and just report back to the board, I'm good with that too.
yeah, I am as
Okay.
well.
All right. Okay, so that's the cameras. Town meeting signs. I believe David did look at some. I looked at some also. And there are electrical signs that I don't know how you program what it says, but they're a little bit expensive, probably $2,000-3,000 each, something like that. But we can get for a few $100 signs, 4x8 or by 6, whatever. That would be about the same size. But they're the ones where you take the individual letters and you write what you want on there. Am I explaining that correctly?
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and those are very inexpensive. They're good size, but it would mean every time we want to post something, we would have to get the signs out of the garage, so to speak, and have somebody stick the letters on, spelling out what the message is, and then bringing it to the site, and then not lit. So they may not be too legible at night, depending on where we put them in the lighting. So those are two options we have.
All right. I think, here, have you guys gone by the police station at all lately? The new one?
Yep.
Do you see the sign that they're building out front?
Yep.
I haven't noticed.
Okay, they're building a sign out front. I think as we move again towards budget season, we should have a warrant article to have one. That's a very significant sign. I mean, and you can really see it, and it's pretty. It would fit in with, with the four corners in Assonet, and it would definitely fit in at the Rotary over there, and it looks really nice. I know who did it, but we can find out and maybe get a price for 2 of those and do a warrant article. So yeah, let's not spend a lot of money on the signs for now, and let's see how much those cost and maybe put a warrant article at the special town meeting or the annual town meeting, because I think that would look really nice and it would fit in really, really nice over there. Look really sharp.
All right.
It would fit the historical nature of the common, and
Yeah.
you don't want something like a flashing kind of sign and visually not detract from the common and from the Rotary.
And it's got a really pretty light over it. Like, it's really nice, George. You would love it.
No, I'm all set.
Yeah, so I think we should look and see how much, I think Andy has a price on that because he's the one that brought it forward. I think it was like 45, I think it was like 45. It was a significant amount of money, but I mean, if we put a warrant article together, it comes out of the town's budget, you know what I mean? So if we can do it for both.
Could that come out of capital?
We could, or we could just put a warrant article on there.
Okay, all right. No, that's good. All right.
And there's no upkeep. It's made out of brick. So, I mean,
really?
yeah, so the upkeep would be insignificant.
Oh, no, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. No, I'm all for that.
Great.
Okay. And lastly, I have one more item here I'd like to discuss. Trash and recycling contract. That has to be renewed in June, I believe. And we had a gentleman from Republic that spoke to us at the last meeting, and I smoke, yeah. Yeah.
TMI, George, TMI.
Yeah, after I smoked, I'd talk to somebody else. Oh, boy.
Get punchy. It's getting bewitching hour.
Yeah, I spoke to another company, basically, and what they told me was very much what I heard from Republic. And basically, that is that it would behoove us to change over to the new system that's not so new in all the other towns, or most other towns, with the big blue cans that the trucks pick up automatically. That speeds the process, but it's a little more expensive. And there is a a lag time to get the trucks in. And I don't know how long that would actually take.
So George, on that, I wanted to, I know the other day I was coming onto the Bay Shores and I was behind a truck and they actually used that machine. The kind of truck was it. They were already using that type of truck because it tried to pick up the barrel pretty unsuccessfully, I might add, because trash got dumped out when I was trying to do it.
Was this Republic?
I'm assuming it was the Bay Shores, yeah. So
Yeah, those are not the new trucks.
okay,
That's a different system. It does
Gotcha.
pick it up, but it's not quite the same.
yeah.
Uh,
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, if you go to most towns around here, I know Taunton has it for one. These trucks, they just look different. The arms that come out are much more sophisticated than what Republic is using here right now. So, long story short, what I would suggest is that we get started now on the bid process and look into what it is if we really want that. And it'll take a few months to get this in place. So if we wait too long before we start the process, it'll be a while before we can get these trucks in and what have you.
David, can you formulate because we don't have to do a bid, we can just do an RFP, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you put together an RFP and then we'll put it on the next meeting and then we can review it and approve it or not, or add to it or not.
I have a quick question about this. A lot of the complaints we got for feedback was about the bags, right? The bags themselves, the quality of them, and they rip and all this stuff. So with this new system, right, I think you need a specific trash can that the residents would have to buy from the town, right? Could we at least entertain an idea of, instead of requiring the buying the certain bags, attach that fee or whatever, we'll have to figure out what it would be, but so you can use any bag as long as you have the town issued trash can, right? So we still generate the same revenue, or we need to cover it, but just do a different mechanism. I think that might, knock out two birds with one stone about a lot of the complaints.
Yeah, personally, I don't really know exactly how that would work. So we would need to bring in these companies and talk to them and find out all the details.
Yeah, let the companies come into us and see what they're willing to give us. I will say that there are new bags and they're wonderful.
Oh, great. Yeah, I have a dumpster in my house right now, so but yes.
They're thicker and they expand.
Oh, that's great.
So they're really much better than the other bags that we have.
That's great news.
Yeah. I wish I were here at that meeting because I would have been all over that guy. So if he's listening, I will let him know that every house, and I told Tim this, and I don't know if he said anything, but my whole road was covered in glass.
Wow.
Because they tried to do the dump method,
Yeah, that's what
and
I
it
said.
doesn't work. Everybody on this road has bottles in their trash.
Yeah.
And those bottles that didn't make it in there, we couldn't even walk the dogs. And they never even picked it up. It was covered from all the way from my house all the way to the end. It was awful. We were all complaining. We all had to clean up our own stuff. But I think that we need to make them aware of that's really bad.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to ask that gentleman too is, if say something like that happens and you see what truck it was, like, is there and there must be, right? Like, what piece of information am I looking for on that truck? Is it a number somewhere? So
It's only one truck.
It's only one truck.
Only one
Okay,
truck.
so it's just a day. All right.
Yeah.
So if I want to complain, because I know, like with Stop and Shop, right? Like when those trucks come in, the gentleman over there told me that I should just make sure you get the number on the truck, like the number, so when you call in, they can actually figure out who it was and they can, fix that action, right? That behavior.
What the major problem is, that we have one truck with one person in it to pick up the whole town.
Yeah.
And that's why I was amazed that all these complaints were coming in, because I have never had a problem in the last umpteen years But the reason that I don't have a problem, or my streets doesn't, is that we're Monday morning. So we're the first ones in the queue. So everything works well. But as the week progresses, they get further and further behind.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'm amazed at is I think you've been getting the emails with all the phone call complaints.
They
You see-
haven't, no.
I don't think I have.
Well,
Yeah.
They come to
Nadine
me.
wrote it.
To me
Nadine,
and you.
yeah, Nadine talked about that in her,
Oh, but she's been sending it to me the last few weeks. But if you look at the complaint sheets, they go back, I'm not sure how long, 2-3 years. Do you know, David?
I don't know. That was
Yeah.
all handled by Derek.
Yeah, it's months and months at the very least, and I think it's multiple years. So all these complaints have been coming in all this time, and really nothing was done about it.
well,
Just-
they came in and they were talked to and, we said that we weren't gonna renew their contract. And then they came in and made this promise and then the contract got renewed. So, I mean, I think that, everybody's good when they want something and then when it goes away, then they fall back on,
Yeah.
old ways. I mean, before this company, I never had a problem with my trash. It was always picked up on time. If it was forgotten, they came back and got it. And that was Borges Brothers and I never had a problem. But, I think that, hey, we send it out, we send a request for, an RFP out and we review it, we go over it, we add, we take away, and we send it out.
Okay, all right. So, but my point tonight was we should start on the process now. And do we want to request the new type of truck that is more automated, that may cost a little bit more, but definitely would give us better service? So we can talk about that.
Yeah, we could definitely. And we should look to see if there are any grants available for those trash.
Yeah,
Bins.
Yeah, there's sometimes they have some grants, but lately the recycle industry is not what it was all cracked up to be. So,
yeah. All right,
Right.
so I
David,
think that,
David, do you have anything that you really want to review with us?
Yeah, I got a couple things I just wanted to update the board on, actually two. One is that we have prepared and filed, the deadline was on Friday for the round 2 of the CARES Act, basically building out the rest of the cost, $660,002. We have in there the CARES, not the CARES, the COVID for the police, the PPP backfill for fire police, updating the buildings in terms of the changes we've had to make, the remote learning that for the 2 fundings for the school department. Those are just some of the things, but we had to get it in, so we did the filing, and we're now positioned to spend out that money and then get reimbursed.
Great.
The other thing is I did attend the seminar today. As everybody's aware, Freetown is now a code red community, which means that we had, I believe it's 16 cases over 2 weeks, and they have a rating system, and we were at 9.5. The goal, hopefully, is to see those numbers go down. However, if we don't go down for 3 consecutive weeks, we're going to have to move in accordance with the governor's plan from phase 3, step 2, back to phase 3, step 1, which limits, specifically certain percentages for, once again, for the meetings, for restaurants, for, basically going back a step and having to just sort of try to bring things back to normal. The seminar was helpful in the regard that we do have a couple businesses in town that I have been told by the Board of Health agent that there have been warnings issued, and they have still not complied. There is a mechanism through the Department of Labor standards. They have enforcement power. They can actually go in and basically, make them comply if they want to still open their business, as well as there's other mechanisms that we can use. But I think at this point, I think that we really have to encourage people to wear masks, to socially distance, and practice good hygiene. And hopefully we will, not become a 3-week community and move back to a normal standard. And finally, doors and windows for the fire station 1. I met with Mary Brown and the fire chief. We took a look at it. I built out a little specification. I've sent it to the building inspector. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to get that done, at least, a good portion short of the painting before the weather gets really bad. I also took a look at the bandstand to see if there's anything that we could do before next spring. And in terms of just resurfacing that so it doesn't deteriorate anymore. So I'm working on those 2 projects. So that's all I got.
All right, so as part of the bandstand, can you reach out to, if the board's okay with this, to the sheriff's department? Because they're actually the ones that did the painting on the library in
Yeah,
town.
they're awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so if we could cut down on some of the cost over there, they would just paint it, scrape it, paint it. And
That'd be great. I like
yeah.
that.
Yeah. I've
definitely.
actually, in other communities, have used, like Worcester County prisoners. They came in, they laid a beautiful fieldstone walkway to the Asa Waters Mansion in Millbury. It's a great resource. We've used them to paint buildings. Yeah,
I don't know if they make
that's a
signs.
good suggestion. I'm sorry.
Maybe they make signs too. I don't know.
Hey, there you go.
And also the other thing, David, through both Trevor and George as well, there seems to be an issue with the November meeting with the assessors. Can you just find out exactly what's going on so we can set the tax rate?
Okay, I was unaware of that.
Happened right at the end of the day.
Oh, okay. All right. November meeting.
Or-
Yeah,
Right.
well, we have an email into the treasurer's office to figure out exactly what the drop dead date is for the bills.
The tax
and
bill,
hopefully-
yeah,
yeah.
it's the tax rate.
Yes, that might have to be pushed back. This Capinos is suggesting to the 30th. So we just have to find out what exactly the drop dead date is for the bill so we can avoid that.
All right.
Yeah.
So
All
what-
right. Anything else from the board? Well, it was a great meeting. Anything? No? Okay. Don't forget to vote tomorrow. Maybe once we have all the sign, reminders about the voting and stuff, maybe we can put those mask signs up again, stating that we have to, masks are mandatory, whatever we did the last time. Maybe we can put that back up on the boards for a little while.
All right.
All right.
Good.
All right. Good night, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.
Night,
Nice to
Need a
see
motion. Someone needs a motion to adjourn.
motion made.
Second.
you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Selectman Grunwald,
Yes,
Selectman Matthews,
Yes.
and Selectman Pacheco.
Yes.
All right. Tim, if
right.
I don't talk to you, have a great vacation. You deserve it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, Tim, I'll haunt you tomorrow.
Okay. So